Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Kowloon Generic Romance Season 1, Episode 9. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we have that opening with the original Kujirai and Kudo. And there's this whole like getting coffee thing, but they also put sugar in there. And she's like, oh, well, let's make French toast. And we kind of learn about her parents not being around anymore, which I never really gave it too much thought because outside the people that knew the original Reiko that are here, we don't really know, like, well, who are your friends outside of Kowloon? Did you really have a life outside of Kowloon? Because there's no worry about like her parents potentially finding their way here and meeting this other Reiko, because also like she lost her parents when she was young. It's not like, oh, like they died after she died. It's like, no, she was super young when her parents died, and who knows if there'll really be anything to that. Just probably it's just hey, it's a background thing, knowing that there will never be any parents, or will there ever be anyone outside of Kowloon that would come looking for her? Anyone that has no connection to Kowloon coming in to look for her is kind of a whole thing, right? And so it was interesting too because she had that whole perspective on she's all about not leaving a book unfinished, which I referenced previously. It's so interesting that she never had volume 2 to that mystery book, but our Kujirai, as they call her, generic or fake Kujirai, ended up, but I'll just say our Kujirai, the one we've come to know, ended up getting that second volume and wanting to read it to kind of complete it. Because the other Reiko had the opinion of, as long, like, if I read this, it's kind of its own perfect little thing, because it's the thing of, I said at the time, like, a sequel, I don't think a sequel can ruin an original, but it can. Because it is a thing of, oh, you take this, you now have the knowledge of knowing where these characters or their story goes. So it inadvertently, like, no matter how good the first one is, it will always sully it, because it's like, this first one is great in its own right and it's perfect in its own right. Why ruin it with like the potentiality of what the sequel could hold? And I think it's interesting to know that the original Kujirai was coming around on that opinion of like, wanting to finish and you never leave a book unfinished, which I'm sure like there's a larger metaphor for not just the book, but probably a lot of stuff in her own life. And it's like, what changed her mind? Who knows? Because she stopped at herself at one point when like the kettle was going off, and Kudo's like, I wonder what she was going to say. And this is where we get into like, once again, the continued back and forth of Kudo and Kujirai, that it makes me so upset with him, because I'm like, it's the tug and pull, and it's so unfair to the Kujirai that we've come to know. Because you saw her when she was with Gwen and Yame, she was like so ecstatic and so happy. She's like, oh, I can't talk about it in such a public place because they had sex, but you could tell like it was still rattling in his head, and he's sitting there drinking, and the shadow of kind of like the original Kujirai wraps her arms around him, and he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm quite clear to myself that he knows, like, for one, that wasn't right, because it's this tug and pull of, I think he does want to try and differentiate. He sees that this Kujirai is different from his, and he wants to accept her, but he's forever trapped in the past. As we had this larger conversation, this episode about the people of Kowloon being devoured by this Kowloon, and Kudo he is drowning in that nostalgia, and it's like what he's been holding on to it. That's why he's staying here, is for Kujirai, and it's like he so wants this Kujirai to be his Kujirai, even though he is also accepting her as a different person. He can't completely remove that ghost, that shadow is always there, looming in his mind and on his heart. But I think that's so unfair to our Kujirai, because she is her own person. Yes, she looks like the person you love, she sounds like the person you love, but she's become her own person, and it just feels like you're so busy trying to fit her into that mold. Even though you don't want to do that, you're still inadvertently do it. So like, it's a crappy situation all around. But it's like, yeah, she fell in love with you on her own, not just because the original Kujirai fell in love with you, but you are someone who's stuck with, I remember my Kujirai, and I know this Kujirai, and it's just that, like I said, I keep saying it over and over again, the tug and pull of it, and it's just so heartbreaking and annoying, because especially when it comes full circle at the end of the episode, when he ends up bringing coffee over, and you can tell like when he's in her place and he's seeing her silhouette behind like the curtain when she's getting the laundry, he's just thinking of his kujirai, and it's just kind of like he goes over to Success. It's like, how are you doing? And the fish turns away from him, because it's almost like the fish knows something on some, that's a like that's very like symbolic of like the fish knows like you're on some BS. And so he gives her the coffee, and she's like, oh, it's iced coffee, but they put sugar in here. He's the one that suggested, hey, why don't you try and make French toast? She's like, oh, really? She's like, that's such a great idea. And she even says the same line of like, oh, yeah, Mr. He just gave me some eggs. The difference is the original kujirai remembers her family. She remembers like, yo, I got this recipe for making French toast from my mom, and it allows me to connect to my family. This kujirai doesn't have those memories. And so it's almost like that legitimately was a test, that it's like, you know, because I think there's a little bit of Kudo that it's looking for an excuse to try and like not get close to her. So it feels like he does a little test like that, and he just leaves. He's like, sorry, I'm leaving. I was like, that's so messed up, because you made her so happy, you know, because what did you do? You promised to stay by her side. And it's like, you were responding to what she said, but you were also selfishly not wanting her to leave, because you're afraid if she leaves, she'll disappear. But it's like, are you afraid for her sake, or are you afraid of you're going to lose Kujirai again? And once this Kujirai is gone, there's no getting her back. She's gone forever from this world. So I'd rather live in a world with a Kujirai that is not mine, and I can pretend she's mine, even though it's breaking my heart, and even if it's breaking her heart. As long as we're still here, I can play pretend in a lot of ways. And like I said, it's just so heartbreaking and fucked up. Like I said, I do feel bad for Kudo, but I feel more bad for Kujirai in this situation. Our Kujirai, as I keep saying. God, I don't want to be so dismissive and calling her generic or fake, which is so messed up considering like how I refer to the original Kujirai as like Kujirai B, but I you know, because that's what they call it. But I'll go with the original Kujirai and our Kujirai. That will be, or at least I'll try to keep that as my naming convention going forward. So, and even that moment at the end of the episode, because she recognizes laying down, she's just like, oh, like she's like, he's still in love with the original Kujirai. And she opens up the box, and it almost felt like for a moment, I was like, please don't put the glasses and the outfit back on, or the earrings. Don't try to be, now that you've become your own person, your absolute self. But once again, it's what Miyuki said like 2 episodes ago, that believing in yourself is one thing, but what you want to do is you want to find other people who validate your existence too. And the one person she can't get to validate her existence as who she is and accept her fully as she is Kudo. And when it's the one person you're madly in love with who can't accept you as you are, that's the most gut-wrenching. You can tell yourself 1,000 times. She can tell herself 1,000 times. She can get so many people around her to accept her. Yao Mei, even Gwen. But not getting Kudo's approval and love and understanding as she is, that's what breaks her heart all over again, you know? So she puts the glasses on for a second, and we see her kind of reliving a memory of the original Kudo, and she immediately throws the glasses off, and I mean, not Kudo, but Kujirai, and she's like, wait, what was that? So it's interesting because we learn with the Yao Mei of it all that, because initially Yao Mei was going to tell them everything that she learned, but they get some drinks, and Yao Mei is hesitant at first, and then Reiko's like, oh, I get it. Like, right, this, you know, you now realize, you now went out there and found out that it was demolished 3 years ago, that this isn't real. But she's like, right, I met someone online, that being Yulong. She just doesn't know it's Yulong. But it's like, yeah, I met someone who wants to prove that this place is real too. But Gwen brings it up like, yeah, like it's a different thing when you now know that this place is fake. Your brain is kind of scared because you're like, we have no idea what's in this food. Like, where's this stuff coming from, and what kind of effect will it have on us? Those who are the originals and or outsiders like Yao Mei versus people who are the residents of this Kowloon, like how the effects it'll have on them differentiates. And Yao Mei just being like, no, I'm steadfast in my belief that this is my friend. I believe in my friend. I believe in this Kowloon. So she chugs down the drink, and then immediately her memory gets wiped. Because everything that she learned, because later on she's texting with Yulong. So she remembers enough, but some of that information got swept away. And even Kujirai was like, oh, what, you know, because she's like, oh, what were we going on about? And Kujirai is like, oh, like Yao Mei, like what's going on with you? She didn't push her to prod her. She didn't recognize anything was weird. I guess she was kind of like, oh, I guess what you found wasn't that important or something like that. Like other than what you found and told us about, like right, what happened to Kowloon City being demolished did happen, but all the other stuff she learned, because she learned something very important from Yulong, but we will never know because she forgot it. Now Gwen recognizes like, wow, this is bad. He tried to tell Miyuki, which Miyuki's too busy trying to run away from him because he's like, oh, you're chasing after me because I'm trying to tell you like I'm not a good person. But he's like, no, just don't eat any food or drinks here. And then also Kudo is the real Kudo, but he's like, I knew that a long time ago. And it's just like Gwen's frustrations with, he thought he knew a lot about Miyuki, but now since coming to Kowloon, he's seen different sides of him. So it's like, did I even know the real Miyuki at all? So that's got to be frustrating, you know. All the relationships in this show, all the romantic relationships, and you know, and a lot of other relationships are so like fickle and just so frustrating because you feel bad for Kujirai, our Kujirai, you feel bad for Gwen when it comes to all of this. So staying on Miyuki, it's interesting, and I'm wondering why he did what he did. But he went to Dr. Wong's office here or his clinic here, but he didn't go inside. And even Gwen brings it up later on. He's like, "Oh, it's interesting that." You know, Miyuki ended up letting his guard down. But he's like, but maybe he did that subconsciously. But then he's thinking about the whole Yao Mei of it all. He's like, right. So eating or drinking things here is making you lose your mind. But what's the difference between kind of basically doing something unconsciously or subconsciously versus losing your mind? Because it's like this place has enough of a hold on you that Miyuki wasn't trying to go to the office, but he's like, oh, this place seems familiar. His body just kind of navigated that way. So it's like this place is pushing and pulling you in certain directions. He even has this interesting conversation with Yu Long later, where and it's a really like it's there's some like heady concepts that I think is so interesting. Where it's like his thing is regretting after you've made a choice, having regret after you made a choice, not knowing what regret is. That's life experience, but knowing that you will regret a choice and still making it regardless, he's like it will leave a stain on you. All that would do is leave a stain on you, and that like it's insane to do that. Like you know you will regret making this choice, but you'll still go down that route regardless. You know, versus like okay, you don't know what regret is yet, and so you're gonna make this choice not knowing it, and it's kind of a learning experience versus willfully making a choice you know you'll regret. It's such an interesting thing. It's like very heady and really like hard to really put into words describing that. It's so fascinating because I had to rewind it a couple times. I'm like, huh, that's really like I don't know. I find that hard to kind of wrap my brain around completely conceptually. So, but basically, he's trying to get Miyuki. He's like, right, you don't have to go down the route you were going down. You can turn back. But it's like, no, for Miyuki, it's like, I've gone too far. There is no going back. So he's chosen the route. And he's going to, you know, get his revenge at the end of the day. Some other elements to kind of talk about is the male and older Shohei, and you know Yao Mei was like, oh yeah, it's a common enough name, and they have this whole conversation because he's looking at all the dresses that Yao Mei has made, and it's like, oh, like you know I'm a man, so like why? But she's like, no, like tell us what dresses you. And he starts breaking down like, oh, this type of dress, wearing like a corset or a bow, whether it's big one or small one. I like the more roughly dresses. And they're like, oh, so that's the type you're into. He's like, well, I don't have the body type for it anymore. Like if a couple years ago I would have, that's what I would have been into. But it's like I've grown up, and I was like, oh, so then I was like, because my last conversation last episode when we were introduced to this other Xiaohei, I was like, oh, did you like, are you like a twin or something? Did you like transition or something? So I'm like, it seems like they're implying like the Shohei that we've met is a male dressing as a woman. I mean, because I mean, a lot of preconceived notions. Because I assumed Shohei was a little girl because they seem so small. But it's the anime thing of well, you're actually older than you look. But yeah, you're female presenting, but I'm also like, well, you're male presenting now, so maybe you always were a male and you just like dressing up as a female. But it's like you change, and I'm wondering why. But that still begs the question: how is that other Shohei like still here? Why didn't they disappear? Like you're in town, and so is it because you're technically? Once again, it's like there's some because it seems clear cut of once the original steps in town, the person the version that exists in this Kowloon will immediately disappear. So it's like, why is your circumstances different? To be because it's like it's not like that Shohei like disappeared. We saw her running away while the one from because I'm like, it can't be a distance thing because it's like just the moment you enter the city, they disappear. So we've only had that tested once, so we don't like that doesn't really mean anything though. It's like we don't have an X factor to this. I guess that's their running theory, but it's only been tested once, and that doesn't give you a definitive answer. And that everyone's running with it like it's a definitive answer, but this makes you go, huh? Because no one knows about that, right? Like Yao Mei nor Kujirai has pieced that together. We don't know if like Xiaohei reported that to Miyuki's dad. It's like, oh, I ran into like the younger version of myself or something, So, and reporting all of this to Miyuki's dad, saying like, right, the bringing up Kujirai, that it's like, yeah, they may look the same, but she's very much different. She speaks her own way. She acts her own way. Even bringing up Yao Mei being like, I knew the original Kujirai, and most likely because of Yao Mei's personality, or I don't know if they were saying Yao Mei's personality or just Kujirai's personality, those two wouldn't have really been friends and hit it off like our Kujirai and Yao Mei do. So it's like that's kind of a very important distinction. And then bringing up the whole element of, once again, because of the nature of the test that Miyuki and Gwen did, that it's like any person that's from Kowloon, that's this Kowloon, if they leave, they most likely will disappear. Because once again, Kujirai is a very special case because at least a lot of we don't know because they talked about like, oh, dead people, but it's like really the only dead person in this city is, to our knowledge, is Kujirai. She's the only one where like the original is dead. Everyone else in the town, for the most part, you would assume, and they're kind of running with the assumption that they're all alive. So we haven't really covered any other dead citizen amongst them. But it's like, this is where Yuki and his father come into play, where like, right, she's a dead person resurrected in this city, and that's what they're aiming for. But it's like, if you bring back the person you want to bring back, they will be confined to Kowloon, and they most likely will disappear once they leave. This also plays into the whole notion of, like I said, Yulong brought up, I didn't say it earlier, but the whole conversation about devour, like Kowloon devouring you like it did Yao Mei's mind, where it's like certain things, yeah, like her conversation with Yulong, but like the whole it being summer all the time, like all that's kind of being washed away. But because even Gwen was like, yo, but what about Kudo? He doesn't seem like he lost his mind, but it's like, arguably you could say he has, because of what he's trying. Like, it presents itself in many different ways. Like this whole Kowloon kind of devouring you manifests itself in different ways. Because yes, on the surface, Kudo seems like he's just himself, and that he hasn't lost his mind like Yao Mei did, but it had different effects and presents itself in different ways to people, because of Yao Mei's connection to this version of Kowloon versus Kudo, who had a connection to the original Kowloon. Like, maybe that is an X factor in all of this conversation. So like them being affected separately would make sense, considering they both have different X factors to each other. Like I said, him being Kowloon connected to the original, her not. Her only having a connection to this version of Reiko, this version of Kowloon. Miyuki's dad wants to experiment with this, like I said, run it further than just using one person. So they want to test it by being like, all right, let's find some more people to basically use this against, like people who are deceased, who are very much like Reiko's situation, and use her to they want to test other people first because she's such an important piece to all of this, both to Miyuki's plan and his father's plan, that is like they don't want to use her unless they absolutely have to. It's like if the time comes and we can't find anyone else to fill that role, then we'll use her. Whatever comes of her, what happens to her becomes of her. That's whatever. She's a means to an end. She's just a product. She's a tool to be used. And even Zhou was like, oh, but I kind of, and it's like, no, shut up. I don't even want to hear your, I didn't ask for your opinion. Just complete the mission. But then the problem is Shohei later on gets caught by Yulong. So it's like, hey, I know you were spying on us and listening in with these devices. So how about this? Instead of working for big bad old man Hebinuma, work for me. Because Yulong has decided, like, I'm going to make a choice that I'm not going to regret. Because he's like, the reason why Dr. Wong is more concerned about you and the choices you make, Miyuki versus me, because I never make decisions where I regret anything. So I'm not really one who drowns in the regret and gets devoured by it. And so he's making a choice where he's like, oh, okay, Xiaohei, you and me, let's work together and we'll kill this version of Reiko. I think it's, in his mind, it's kind of like the bad for the greater good, because it's like Reiko is a key factor in all of this, and if like they can get rid of her, then you basically stop Miyuki from drowning himself in his path of revenge. Versus his father, it's like you'll basically put a, like, you'll screw over his plans as well. And so for Yulong, it's probably a thing in the long run that this is for the greater good. I'm helping out the friend that I care about deeply, and I'm also stopping like his father. So like it's kind of a win-win in his mind. Sadly, like Reiko might be the cause, but who knows? He could be playing Xiaohei, and it's like, no, we have like, you think it's clear cut there's this, but like, no, we might be playing like, oh, we'll kill Reiko, but won't really do it. We'll have to see. But it seemed like he might be serious about it because everyone's so desperate to help the people that they care about, where they stand in the grand scheme of things. Because we also have Miyuki sitting down with Dr. Wong thinking about, like, right, he blames himself because he's like, if I had never reached out to Hebi Numa, then like I wouldn't have left my mom behind. Like, so he regrets that, and maybe even regrets breaking up with Gwen. It's always just kind of like the choices you could have made versus the ones you did that are riddled with regret. It makes me wonder, like, he knew breaking up with Gwen there would be regret associated, because that's a choice he made with regret. I'm so curious about the Heavy Numa one. Did he make that choice out of regret? Like, did his mom warn him not to do something like that, not to worry about his dad? Or did he make that choice knowing there would be regret? Or was it life experience because he didn't know regret at that time and now he does, which in itself informed his decision to make the regretful choice when it comes to Gwen? I think that's supposed to be like, especially considering how that was presented in that sequence as well. So there was also that interesting conversation where, like, was it Yulong that was having that conversation, like I said, about the, this place devouring you, like your incessant need to, like, once again, bringing up the Yao Mei of it, I was like, oh, like how, like, devout, like how connected are you to this place to be so bold to, like, not care? Because a normal person would have the Gwen perspective of, I don't know what this might do to me, but you being so willing to kind of take that deep dive, it's like, right, you have a friend here, and that means a lot to you, and you're willing to go above and beyond. And I guess that's also supposed to be the parallel of why he's willing to go as far as he's going for Miyuki. I guess that's supposed to be like the parallel in that capacity. But there was that line that was like a crossover between that, and it bled over into like both Kujirai and Kudo saying it at the same time about like the conversation about this place being an unwillingness to let go of the past, things that are super important, as well as the things, basically the things that matter. All of this, like, and things that you'd be sad they disappear, all culminate in this city. It's interesting how it is this city of kind of almost like a city of dreams and memories, and like those things that shouldn't be forgotten, the things you don't want to forget, the things you don't want to disappear, the things that matter are all culminated in a city. And that dissection of that can be, allocated to so many characters of what they're getting out of Kowloon, the things that have disappeared that they don't want to disappear, the things that are important. And it fits so many characters of what they're getting out of this Kowloon. So it's just really, really interesting. Oh yeah, also there was something Shohei came in. It wasn't Reiko, but it was something else inside of this Kowloon. He was sent in to destroy because they were like, "Oh, don't let whatever it is leak out." I would assume it probably has to be about, once again, the thing that the medicine or whatever that killed Reiko, the original, because that was kind of wiped from all these different files. And he's like, "Oh, don't let that information leak out of there." But as he brought up, like, "Oh, anything that was made in here will disappear the moment it leaves the city limits." But did bring up something interesting though, that as long as something from the outside can be brought into this Kowloon. Also, anything that existed in the original Kowloon won't be an issue for coming and going when it comes to this Kowloon either, because I guess it's like, no, I guess it's more specifically like if something was made for this specific Kowloon, then it disappears the moment, because obviously Yame designed his jacket with the modifications and he really liked it, but knows like, right, it'll disappear when I leave. But I think it's implying like, no, like stuff that was in the original Kowloon that is here will, no, I think maybe that is a different thing of like maybe stuff that was left behind from the original Kowloon that is in this Kowloon, like you could bring it back and forth in between outside and into this Kowloon without it disappearing. Oh yeah, there was also the conversation about, right, this place is detailed so specifically from what Shohei can remember, but the problem is there are certain roads that should be here in this Kowloon that don't exist for whatever reason. It's like, well, why is that? Because there is some of the like directional stuff of like, why is certain places linked up the way they are, and why are certain roads closed in this version, yet other things are so exact, except Kujurai being the X factor to it. Is she the X factor in all of this? So many questions. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.